Hello, I am Mac, at least for a day, and I really hope everything's going to be okay. I'm feeling pretty down about the ARG right now. In fact, starting to think I don't even want to participate in the ARG anymore. This is a Waking Titan 1.5 report, of course. I'll get to why I'm upset in a little bit, but let me go over what's happened over the past few days. Let's see, at 7 p.m. Central Time, Saturday, July 7th, the status on WakingTitan.com started initializing connection 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of 5, and so on. And what was going on was Emily had contacted people on five different communities involved in No Man's Sky and Waking Titan. So like the CSD Discord, the No Man's Sky Discord, the Game Detectives Discord, the Atlas CSD forums, and Reddit were all contacted, and each community chose one streamer to do this activity. I was kind of flattered the people on the Atlas CSD forums immediately thought of me, but unfortunately I had to decline. I couldn't do it because I have no way of showing the uplink app when I'm streaming on anything because I'm only on PS4. I don't have a smartphone, I don't have a PC. I can only stream from in-game in a PS4 game or some other kind of app that's on PlayStation. I cannot stream something directly from an internet web page like the Uplink app. So I couldn't do it. So Kyle Culver, who's a very good video guy, he's done a lot of Waking Titan recaps himself. He was chosen for the Atlas CSD forums, and he did a good job with what they were doing. So what they were doing was they were connecting a live conversation with the dreamers. So far, the conversations we've done are just choice-based. There's basically different paths based on different choices you make. They're just, scripted conversations that we could do on the Uplink app. But this was actually a live communication between the streamer and one of the dreamers. So somebody was on the other line typing or somehow communicating as the dreamer in each of these conversations. And you can find at least 3 videos of these conversations in my Waking Titan 1.5 playlist. And like I said, Kyle Culver did one, and Kyle Culver spoke with Yoon Ha, I believe. But yeah, his video is one of the ones on my playlist, so you can watch that. It was kind of painful watching these conversations because none of the streamers had any directions or instructions or goal to complete in these conversations. So they were just kind of talking to the dreamer, and people in the chat were suggesting things for them to say. Some of the conversations went very badly, like the conversation with Philip accidentally turned towards the fact that Tariq the dreamer died, and that made Philip immediately end the conversation. And then the conversation with Alexander was pretty bad because, of course, Alexander's an older man and he's very forgetful. And I think the guy that was supposed to talk to Alexander didn't really know a whole lot about him. He should have, but I don't think he did many of Alexander's conversations, or he didn't remember them very well. Or it was, like I said, just the fact that the streamers didn't have hardly any instructions on what they were supposed to ask and what they were trying to get out of it. There basically was no goal. It was just a test to test this system of talking to people. But some of the conversations went very well, were very positive. Like Toby Claire and Yoon Ha, those conversations went pretty well. But, of course, nothing was accomplished. It didn't unlock anything. It was just kind of a practice for what I believe is what we're going to be doing in the extraction event. But more on that in just a minute. Then at 5:30 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday, July 11th, more of Nina's conversation opened up. One more conversation for Nina. It turns out, as usual, if you haven't done Nina's new conversation, go do that now because I'm about to spoil it. But we find out in this conversation that Nina actually is a friend of Simon. They went to high school together, and they had an after-school club where they played board games and such. So Nina knows Simon, and when she finds out that Simon is another, well, actually she knew. Nina knew that Simon was one of the dreamers. Simon did not know that Nina was in there, but Nina actually joined the experiment because of Simon. So it's kind of odd. I guess she's really shy, and she lost contact with Simon when they were in high school, and for whatever reason she was too afraid to contact Simon again, because she has some kind of emotional issue where sometimes she thinks that people are mad at her or don't like her anymore, and so she just couldn't work up the nerve to contact Simon again. But despite that, she volunteered for a human experimentation project in order to try to get a hold of him again, I guess. I don't know. But so Nina volunteered for the experiment as well because Simon had. But Simon is not aware that Nina is in the Dreamer Wear satellite thing. So so that is the answer to Nina's second conversation code. Her second conversation code is Simon. So, and unfortunately, for some reason, Nina only has 2 conversations. Most dreamers had 3, except for Tariq and the number person, who we can't do anything with. Tariq only had 1 conversation, and then he died. So it's very scary that Nina may not be able to be saved either, because she only has 2 conversations instead of 3, and the rest of her nodes are corrupted and don't say anything like we're ever going to be able to do anything else with her. But anyway, Nina's second code is Simon. Moving on, at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time on Thursday, July 12th, a new dreamer was connected to the dashboard named Isabella. And as usual, if you haven't done her conversation yet, go do that, but I'm about to give you the answer to it. Her answer is Route 66. She mentions in her conversation that she would like to travel from Chicago to California, and Route 66 is one of the best ways to do that, so that's the answer to her code, is Route 66. Isabella is another one who only has 1 conversation, and none of her other nodes appear to be accessible. They're all corrupted. So Isabella may be another that we are not able to save because we're not able to totally complete her memory block. So that's it on that. And then another thing that happened is right after Isabella's, or actually about the same time that Isabella's conversation became available, she was connected and her conversation became available, Sean Murray tweeted out a very cryptic tweet. He's done several cryptic tweets over the past 6 months, like his infamous you fall asleep with your face on a mirror and wake up in your dreams, an app but it's evil. It was a tweet at the creator of Black Mirror, and it was pretty much foreshadowing that the ARG storyline is about falling asleep and waking up in your dreams because of the way the Wear devices are. And an app, but it's evil, is like, because it's evil because it trapped the dreamers. We still don't know what mirror means. But anyway, that was a tangent. So Sean Murray tweeted again, and this new tweet is just a picture with an emoji. It's the picture is a picture of 5 Samsung SSD cards, and we can see the date on them. They're dated. Uh-oh, I'm gonna have to craft some stuff. But sorry. What I was gonna say was, yeah, the SSD cards are dated July of 2017, and some people have speculated what that could mean. I think it's the SSD cards that they used for the multiplayer lobby system that we currently have. And one of the SSD cards says corrupt, and then you can see the letter D, but the rest is covered up. You can't see what it says. It probably says corrupt data or corrupt disk or corrupt drive. Personally, I think that's what they are. They were the drives that they were using for multiplayer, because July 2017 is right about when they started the Orb multiplayer that we currently have. And as many people who've been playing No Man's Sky recently know, we've had a lot of problems with the share system. Comm stations not appearing, people's bases not appearing, and multiplayer orbs not appearing. So it's possible that this is just a picture Sean took of the old SSD cards that they replaced, because it is very likely they'll be completely changing the driver systems or whatever for No Man's Sky, because we're getting all new multiplayer. But anyway, and it had a sleep emoji. So some people think it's ARG related, that these discs represent dreamers whose data is corrupt, and that's what the sleep emoji is. I think that's possible, but it also might just be Sean saying, hey, we just did all this work changing out these SSD cards, now I'm really sleepy, so I'm gonna go to bed now, because it was midnight UK time that he tweeted this. So I think it's most likely that it's a real thing, but he might also be using it to hint at the ARG. I don't know. But anyway, enough about that. Let's get on to what has happened today and the reason that I'm feeling down about all of this. So we got a new email from Old Gods. That's the email address that sends stuff out to people for Waking Titan. And I will read that email to you now. Dear Citizen Scientist Division, this incredible 6-month journey is coming to an end, and we are reaching out for your help to complete the final stretch. The past several weeks have been eventful, but we have one last challenge to address before we can relax. It's time to gather our strength and prepare, as the Myriad and Atlas teams are hard at work setting up for the extraction process. And I noted here that there is a picture of the back of L Plays Gaming's head. It's from Robot Boy's vlog that he did of the event. So poor L Plays. It's kind of cool. I'm sure, you know, if you know L Plays, you know that he's going to be so excited and so happy that the back of his head is on a Waking Titan email. But it is kind of funny that it's the back of his head and not the front of his head. But yeah, that was pretty funny. And there's also a picture of the Paris live drop with people that I'm not familiar with. And then it says, we still have another dreamer to connect to our planned extraction date, July 20th. So that gives us the date, and it's what I assumed, that it was going to be the last weekend before the update. So July 20th, which I believe is Friday, is when the extraction process will begin. And I think that will probably be a Twitch stream, and will likely include all of the streams of the streamers that have been chosen, maybe different people, as we do this extraction event thing. And then it says, if you have been able to participate in any of the activities thus far, don't let that hold you back. If you have, it should say have not been. If you have not, if you have been unable to participate, don't let that hold you back. We could still value your involvement with this crucial task. Before we go into detail about what needs to be done, we would like to share some key data from the SATCOM Center with you. As of July 12th, more than 381,000 sessions were initiated by CSD members, with 1,378,065 commands input into the uplink system. Connections to the satellite were registered from a staggering 12,400 unique cities across the world. The scale of the CSD's response to this crisis has extended far beyond our expectations, and we are extremely grateful. So the ARG has done this before. It did this in the first Waking Titan, where they give us data on how many people have participated in the ARG, how widely across the globe they are, and how active everybody has been with it. So I'm not sure why they do this, honestly. I guess they're basically bragging. It's kind of Allison Smith, the creators of the ARG, bragging that the ARG has been really popular or something, but I don't really know what the purpose of telling us that is. But anyway, connections to the Dreamers. Yeah, the next heading is connections to the Dreamers. 12 people have been trapped in a state of artificial dreaming following a WERE experiment. Using the Uplink app and with the help of the Atlas AI, Loop 16, Emily, you can initiate conversations with individual dreamers. Our technical team has advised us that the process to successfully extract a dreamer is highly complex, and it is likely that not all dreamers will be safely extracted. So that part is underlined and the text is red. So they really want to emphasize that not all of the dreamers, it is likely that not all the dreamers will be safely extracted. And this is part of what has me down. So going on, it says, this forces us to make a difficult decision. We're asking you to perform a simple task to help. Number 1, initiate a conversation with a dreamer via the Myriad Uplink application. Instructions are provided below. Complete a basic survey about your experience. This information will help us in many ways. From a technical point of view, we want to ensure that the dreamer's memory block is stable. Initiating multiple conversations helps us in our assessment. And it goes on to say, from an ethical standpoint, we need to understand how the global CSD community relates to individual dreamers to create a baseline for when we need to make difficult ethical decisions. So this is what has me upset. They are basically asking us to make ethical decisions about which dreamers should be saved and which ones should not. And let me explain how they're going to have us do this. Mission A055. Your mission is to complete a conversation with a dreamer and fill out report A055 for our crisis management team. Choose at least one of the dreamers below and click the Chat Now link. The Uplink app will open and you will be in contact with Emily and the dreamer. Proceed with the conversation and, once finished, fill out the following A055 survey. And the 3 dreamers, they're only having us do this for 3 dreamers, are Alexander, Toby, and Yoon Ha. And I will talk about that in a little bit. Then it says, if you are on mobile, iOS or Android, open this link and enter the dreamer's name without spaces to start the conversation. Thank you for your help. Once you've completed the task, you can fill out your report for the crisis management team. So that's it for the email. So this is what has me upset. Like I said, they're making us make ethical decisions or give input about the dreamers, basically asking us to decide who is most worth saving and who is not. And I don't know if that makes anyone else upset, but it does make me very upset. There has been thought experiments about this before. Like in colleges, sometimes people will ask the question, if say you were in a boat that is sinking, like a ship, you know, like the Titanic or something, and there's only a limited number of lifeboats, and you are some kind of commander person, and you need to decide who is going to be saved. And the conversation usually steers towards you would save the children first, maybe the younger people that can still have kids or are young enough to work and to contribute to society, and the last people you might save, according to the way they try to steer these conversations, is like the older people that are going to die soon anyway, and it's not as bad to sacrifice those people because they aren't going to be able to contribute to society as much. They don't have much of their life left ahead of them. They can't work to help the economy. They can't have kids to, you know, reproduce the species, whatever. And I really, really hate that kind of thought experiment. I think it's horrible. Honestly, I think it's the way the Nazis were, because besides just, you know, other prejudice that the Nazis used, like killing Jews, the Nazis also killed the elderly and, more specifically, disabled people who could not contribute to society anymore. They even called them useless eaters, something like that. They called them like useless eaters, people that would still continue to eat and consume resources but were no longer able to contribute in any way. So they actually gassed those people as well, in addition to the Jews and gypsies and so on. So I think this is a horribly evil kind of thought experiment to have, and I don't know where they are getting off doing this kind of thing. Personally, like I almost said, I'm almost considering boycotting the ARG at this point. But I really want to at least get my opinion out on this and let people know that I think this is a horrible kind of exercise to do. Obviously, as people are going to point out, these are fictional characters. We're not actually deciding to kill actual people. It is a thought experiment, like much of the Waking Titan ARG always has been. It is just a thought experiment to see what we think of these different situations and how we would react in these different situations. Like, should we trust an AI? Should an AI who is extremely powerful and has human level intelligence be allowed to exist, etc., etc.? And thankfully, I think people made the correct decision on that one, and they said yes, that a human level intelligent AI should be allowed to exist. I'm more afraid now about this, though. I hope that the community will make the right choices, and by right I mean refused to choose someone to sacrifice. The three dreamers that we're currently being asked to do conversations with and tell about are Alexander, Yunha, and Toby. Toby is a 5-year-old boy. Using the boat analogy and the thought experiment that people have used before, you would say that Toby would be the one to be saved first, because he's a young kid, he's got his whole life ahead of him. People usually emphasize the most with little kids because they're helpless. You know, they're cute. You want to protect little kids, and I agree with that to some extent, but not over sacrificing other people. Yoon Ha is in her 30s, I believe, because some of the dates in her conversations said that she was a young girl in the 80s, so she's most likely in her 30s, maybe early 40s. So she's younger, probably able to have kids still. I don't think she does have kids, but again, she's like the age people in the thought experiment would say should be saved, because she's young enough to work still for sure, and possibly have kids, so she could still contribute to society or whatever. And then Alexander is a very old man, probably in his 80s. I believe some of the dates in his conversations say that he was young in the 40s, maybe longer ago than that. He's a very old man, and of course he is the kind of person that people in these thought experiments would say should be sacrificed because he doesn't have much of his life left and all of that. But I refuse to take that kind of stance. No human life should ever be prioritized over any other. That's getting into the Nazi way of thinking, and I refuse to participate in that kind of a thing. And Alexander has a wife and who we assume to be his son. He talks about someone named Jacob, who's most likely his son, and of course we know he has his wife Emmeline. So I don't think Emmeline or Jacob, if they were real people, would say that Alexander should be the one to be sacrificed. It certainly isn't to them, to those that love him and care about him, and I refuse to think that way either. So I haven't done the survey yet. I don't know exactly what it asks, but basically the wording of this email is saying we're going to have to prioritize ones over the other. So what I'm planning to do is I'm going to do all of the conversations with all three of them, Alexander, Yoon Ha, and Toby, and then I'll look at this survey and see what it asks. If it allows me to say the same for all three of them, say that all of them should be saved, that's what I'll do, because that's what I think we should always do. We should always try to save everybody and not prioritize any over any other. But already people on the Atlas CSD forums, there's this one guy who I won't name on the Atlas CSD forums who, before we even got this email, said that we should prioritize sacrificing Alexander because he's so old and we should save the others first. And that made me really angry. I didn't react or argue with him about it, but I personally was very incensed by that kind of thinking, and it makes me mad that they're making us take on that kind of thought experiment in this ARG. So, like I said, I'm going to do these conversations, but if in the survey, I don't know what the survey is, I didn't look at it yet, but I am going to refuse to finish the survey if it's going to somehow make me prioritize others. Like if they give me all three people and say which of these three is most important, I'm not even going to finish the survey. I refuse to take part in something like that. But if it lets me prioritize all three of them and say they all should be saved with equal priority, dang it, I gotta load a save. Then I will complete the survey in that way. But I'm not very happy about this, and I really wish that they wouldn't do it this way. And I encourage you all to do the same, that if it allows you to give them equal priority, please do that. At least consider doing that. But please do not try to prioritize one person over another. I think that's wrong. And what I'm hoping is that it is, number one, it is possible to save all of the characters in this, but also that is actually a learning experiment to try and teach us to have this kind of empathy, to teach us that it is not right to prioritize other people over others based on whatever reason that you may decide to use. That would be nice. That would be nice that they would come back and say, okay, so you all chose to sacrifice this person, but that's the wrong thing to do, and everybody's going to be saved anyway, and that, I don't know. I really hope that they don't do this. I hope they make it possible to save just about everyone. Obviously, we can't save Tariq, and I'm pretty sure we won't be able to save number 2311, because I'm not even sure if that's a real person or not. I have no idea. But I think it's really awful making us choose between these people for whatever reason. Even though they're fictional characters, it's not a good mindset to have. And if I were ever put into a situation where I had to do that in real life, I would rebel against it. Even if it meant sacrificing my own life, I would refuse to sacrifice some people over others. And I think we all would like to think that we would do that. If we were in a situation where our country became like the Nazis, that were forcing us to sacrifice certain people, that we would rebel against the government and refuse to do the same kind of thing the Nazis did. But I'm sure there are some of us in our society that would go along with the system and would allow some people to be sacrificed if they were desperate enough, if resources were scarce, or if their family was suffering, that they would be willing to sacrifice others, which is basically what happened with the Nazi regime. The Nazis were able to come to power because Germany's economy was devastated after World War I, so the Nazis were able to come along and say, hey, it's the Jews' fault, it's this other group's fault, they're the reason that you're suffering. If we get rid of them, then you'll all be happy again. And people in Germany, by and large, went along with that, and history speaks for itself. Thankfully, the Nazi regime was stopped, and the horrible atrocities were stopped, but we have to remain vigilant, because that could always happen again. It could happen in our own country, whatever country you're in. You can't allow people to do that. Even if it's in a fictional ARG, you cannot allow people to dehumanize somebody. That's always how it starts, is you dehumanize someone, say that they're not really human, they're not worthy of human rights. Or it just starts with a thought experiment like this. Like, we can only save one of these three people or two of these three people. Who are you going to prioritize? Are you going to prioritize the young? Are you going to prioritize the ones who are able-bodied, able to work and have kids? Or are you going to save this old person that doesn't have much longer to live and can't contribute to society as much? I reject that kind of thought process, and I hope the rest of you will reject that as well. But anyway, I will get off my soapbox. I know this is episode 50 of Waking Titan Report, and I wanted it to be a little more nice and positive, but sometimes life doesn't work out like that, and this has to be me kind of rebelling against the ARG because of how they've chosen, what direction that they've chosen to go in. Well, history will speak for itself, and we'll see if I was right or not about whether things should be the way that they should be. I don't know. Anyway, I have been Mac. Thank you for joining me for a day, and if the good people in the world remain vigilant and don't allow evil to creep in, everything will be okay.